Part 47. I come out from the cold palace, then returns to my own palace. I entered the prince's mansion with her, and at that time the emperor was still fighting with the first emperor. Probably because he felt a little snubbed, so later the emperor succeeded to the throne and sealed the queen, and only I and her were concubines. Oh! At the same time the concubine was also the prince's biological mother, and later she was named a concubine because the prince was gone. Later, concubine Yan and I boiled and boiled. And we also became concubines, seeing her infinite scenery, but unexpectedly, the building collapsed in a blink of an eye. Standing outside the Ningxiang Palace, concubine Luo Shu Ruo Lan held the hand of her confidant palace maid Ming Ruo, looked at the empty courtyard and sighed softly. After fighting in the dark for so many years, she naturally hated Li Qingyu to the bone, but this time, when the other party really lost ground overnight, Shu Ruo Lan couldn't help but have a sense of sadness about the death of a rabbit and a fox. Mother, it's windy here, it's better to go back to the palace and rest. Ming Ruo persuaded softly, but saw that the master shook her head, and gritted her teeth for a long time and said, "The emperor doesn't take us in his eyes now." Concubine Yan's position is not low, but he said that if he is executed, he will be executed. I will go and talk to the queen mother. Mother. Concubine Yan mother is taking her own death. Mother must not hit the emperor's fire at this time, in case the emperor is tired of you, it will be bad. Ming Ruo hurriedly dissuaded, but heard Shu Ruo Lan say lightly, I naturally know this. It's just that why did the emperor suddenly rain down this thunderous anger? Speaking of which, isn't it for that concubine Wen? Of course. Concubine Yan has a way to die. But the emperor has done too much for concubine Wen, and I can't help but guard against it. As she spoke, she turned around, but saw a few beauties standing there not far away. It was the other concubines and nobles in the palace. She sighed, and when everyone came around, asked lightly, "You all know what happened?" Yes. The emperor ordered someone to inform the sixth palace early in the morning, saying that concubine Yan mother plotted to kill the queen, and then attempted to kill concubine Wen. So the punishment of the car split, the Li family. The Li family is also finished. Noble Rong replied softly, and with every word she said, her face became even paler. The emperor. Shu Ruo Lan spoke slowly, but stopped after saying two words. She wanted to say that in the eyes of the emperor, except for concubine Wen, there is no longer us. And we must now find our own way. But even if she woke up, concubine Yan was given the punishment of car splitting, and she was to blame. The great crime of murdering the queen did not shave her. And even if it was the emperor's grace, she used this as a reason to say that the emperor did not have them in his eyes, and to put it seriously, it was slander. If these concubines around him are all in the same mind as themselves, it is fine, but in case there is a smart one who is ready to throw himself into concubine Wen, his words will become a handle. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but smile bitterly and shook her head, secretly saying that she was too. How could she forget that this was a harem because of her agitated mood? If you don't have a handle, others will create some tricks to harm you. But you have to take the initiative to give them the handle? So, Shu Ruo Lan didn't say any more, but changed her words. Okay. Concubine Yan's result is also her own fault, and she dares to murder the queen. Isn't this courage to be a treasure? Nor does it deserve sympathy. It's just that the queen mother is old. And I don't know if she will be frightened when she hears this news. I'm going to go to Sinning Palace to investigate. Do any of you want to be with me? This is exactly what the concubines think. Clearly saying that the emperor favors concubine Wen, and now no one dares to touch the emperor's scales, but as long as it is in front of the queen mother, everyone can reveal some news in the gossip. If the Queen Mother is dissatisfied with Pu Qiutai, then there may be no room for reversal. So, a group of concubines came to Sinning Palace surrounded by a large group of eunuchs and palace maids. As soon as she crossed the Jinshui Bridge, she saw a few people walking in the distance. Shu Ruolan frowned, and asked Ming Ruodao beside her, "Who do you think those people are? Isn't it concubine Wen?" Ming Ruo hurriedly looked up, and then whispered, "Mother. It is concubine Wen, mother." The one next to him is the Honglian. And the two little palace maids behind him are probably brought over when they went to the cold palace that day. Who let him out of the cold palace? He's so bold. Noble Rong screamed behind Shu Ruolan, but saw Shu Ruolan looking at her coldly, and said in a deep voice, "Apart from the emperor, who else can let him leave the cold palace?" Hee. Now that the poisonous snake has been pulled out, how can the emperor still bear to leave the treasure on the tip of his heart in the cold palace to suffer? Of course. He had to give an order to let him return to the Yunhai palace. All the concubines gasped, and they also thought that Pu Qiutai would go to the cold palace. Would it be the emperor's plan to lure the snake out of the hole? But it was just a guess, and now when I heard Shu Ruolan say this, everyone's hearts were cold. The emperor actually loves concubine Wen to this point. This is. How can this be argued? Fight for what? If the emperor is angry, can he even dissolve the harem? Since then, only the male fox has been favored. No, what if it is really the emperor's decree to let him return to Yunhai Palace? What about the eunuch who passed the decree? Suddenly, Noble Wei hesitated. If you say that Pu Qiutai hates the most here, it is naturally her. Pu Qiutai is infinitely favored and returns to the Yunhai Palace. Others are just resentful and jealous, but she is different. If this man turns over once, will his son be taken away by him again? Therefore, at this time, in addition to the jealousy of gritting teeth, the hearts of Noble Wei were full of panic and fear. Even if there is no eunuch to send a message, do you dare to come forward and ask? How dare concubine Wen make decisions about such a big matter? What's more, if he followed his thoughts, he would probably rather live in the cold palace for the rest of his life. Shu Ruolan sneered. Her words left all the concubines speechless. In the complicated gaze of this group of people, Pu Qiutai's master and servant gradually approached. What are they doing standing there? Are they waiting for me to come and see me? Pu Qiutai was also shocked. But he heard the Honglian next to him sneer and said, "Wait for the mother to see you?" Where did they come from with such big faces? It's concubine Luo. Mother stepped forward to say hello to her. And the other people came up to meet mother. Why bother? I don't want to have anything to do with them. Pu Qiutai shook his head, but when he met everyone at this time, he couldn't look at the past without squinting after all. He was never the kind of person who was empty-eyed, so he nodded with Shu Ruolan in front of him, which was regarded as a greeting. Concubine Wen, mother, this is coming out of the cold palace? Want to go back to the Yunhai Palace? Why don't you see the eunuch accompanying you? Shu Ruolan didn't speak. But Noble Wei couldn't hide her anger and panic, and asked coldly. Pu Qiutai was stunned for a moment, and before he could speak, he heard the Honglian on the side smile and said, "Last night, the emperor went to the cold palace in person and talked to mother for half the night, and finally persuaded mother to change your mind. Before going to court today, he also instructed our mother to return to Yunhai Palace as soon as possible, otherwise the emperor will come to pick it up in person. The nobles also know that our mother has never been the kind of pampered and arrogant. Thinking about such an alarming method, it is better to go back quietly by yourself." By the way, the second prince only lived in the Yunhai Palace for less than 2 days, and then caught up with our mother to go to the cold palace, and now our mother is back. Okay. Honglian. Seeing that noble Hui's face suddenly turned pale, Pu Qiutai knew that Honglian had stabbed the other party's heart, so he hurriedly stopped it in a deep voice. Then, he ignored the concubines with different faces, walked slowly past everyone, and went straight to the Yunhai Palace. Returning to the Yunhai Palace, needless to say, it was naturally overjoyed. Farong served Pu Qiutai to take a bath and change clothes, and said happily, "When mother is not here, the emperor has been here several times." The previous child told the slaves and maids that the mother was coming back, only to make us very happy. Last night the incense hall over there passed the matter. The slave knew that the mother was coming back. No, early in the morning the scene was cool and arranged for people to clean everywhere, and I didn't see them so lively and happy during the new year. Mother is the backbone of this palace. If you are not here, we can't lift our spirits by doing anything. Pu Qiutai quietly listened to Farong's nagging. And there was some ironing in his heart, as if the unwillingness to leave the cold palace was much more indifferent. Has the prince moved out now? After re-grooming, he changed into a new set of sand-pigmented satin gowns, which made his whole person as warm as jade. Farong looked at it and said with a smile, "How can the prince move out? I see that mother's complexion is getting better and better, and your body is plumper than before." As soon as the words fell, I heard the sound of pedaling footsteps outside, and when Farong turned around, she saw Xia Dongming pick up the curtain and walked in. When he saw Pu Qiutai, the little prince suddenly retracted his steps, took a few deep breaths, and waited for the eagerness in his eyes to fade away, so he pretended to be calm and indifferent. "Well, the mother concubine is back?" Pu Qiutai was angry and funny, which made this mother concubine a little angry, but he also saw the excitement of the little prince running in before. So he didn't feel angry in his heart, but there was an unknown feeling of emotion. So, he nodded calmly and said, "Well, I'm back." Has His Royal Highness Crown Prince missed his homework in the past few days? You've been to the cold palace for so many days, and when you come back, you have to ask my homework first. Is there anything like you who is so slight? Xia Dongming puffed out his cheeks and looked at Pu Qiutai with some dissatisfaction. "Anyway, I went to see you when I stole food with my brother. Why don't you miss the old love at all?" Pu Qiutai looked at the little prince, and the whole person was speechless, and secretly said that this kid really has the same virtue as his father. This is the wicked person Su first? Besides, he was the crown prince, and the second prince took that box of food to see him that day, and he still needed to steal it? Mother, what His Royal Highness Crown Prince said is right. It's rare for you to come back. Everyone is very happy. You just let His Highness go first. And the homework will be talked about later. Farong hurriedly played around next to him. Pu Qiutai wanted to say, "If Your Highness and I don't talk about our homework, what can we say?" However, seeing Xia Dongming smile after listening to Farong's words, thinking of this would inevitably hurt the child's heart, because he still swallowed it silently in the end. Farong also breathed a sigh of relief, seeing that Xia Dongming had taken a turn here, and after pretending to ask a few words about the life of the cold palace. He was impatient and went out to play with Zhu Shanyan. So, he looked at Pu Qiutai and said with a smile, "When mother first entered the palace, how much did he hate the emperor and the prince? Now you can think about His Royal Highness and the emperor, so what the emperor said is right. You are too soft-hearted. It's not that the heart is too soft. The prince is a child in the end. And his pure heart is still there, not as hateful as the emperor." Thinking that Xia Linxuan's bastard did its last night against his own wishes and pressed him for most of the hour. Pu Qiutai felt itchy at the root of his teeth, and wanted to tear off a few pieces of meat from that bastard's body to eat. Farong shook her head, didn't say anything more, and secretly said, "Mother, Mother, the emperor has already seen through you. You are soft-hearted, sincere, and carry a lot of things, so how can you not be eaten to death by the emperor? Not to mention the emperor. Even His Royal Highness Crown Prince. I'm afraid that over time, you will sincerely accept him as your son. Well, this is also a good ending.